Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tostemac Podcast. I hope your week is going great so far. Today, I'm going to be talking about what was possibly the best summer vacation I have ever had, and that being my first time to an Rtx event. Now, some of you might not know what this Rtx event is about, or maybe thinking that Rtx refers to a piece of a computer. So, before I get to explaining what Rtx is about, I need to explain the entertainment company behind it, and that being Rooster Teeth. Rooster Teeth was first created on April 1st, 2003, with a small group of people, Bernie Burns, Matt Holm, Gus Sorolla, Jeff Ramsey, and a couple others, as they were trying to play a video game the wrong way. What do I mean by that? Well, usually when you play a game like Halo or Fortnite, it's pretty straightforward. You run towards the battlefield, you eliminate enemies, and that's it. But what Bernie and the others did was they were manipulating the video game in a way that they could create something that at the time was pretty much unheard of. And that being, they were trying to make a web series based from a video game, or rather they use the video game and tell their own story. And the way they did it was, usually when it came to first-person shooters, the character is always having their weapon pointed forward. So, and this is just an example, what they did was they manipulated it so that the hands were down, and they kind of move the characters like this, add some voice clips, and make it seem like they're actually talking to each other rather than just playing the game. Now, I did not discover this red versus blue or Rooster Teeth stuff until years later when I was in high school. And the way I found out was a classmate or two was telling me about, hey, have you heard of red versus blue? It's really fun. And after they kind of talked me into it, I remember going to the library of the high school, going to a computer, getting at my headphones on, and looking up red versus blue. I was laughing my butt off after the first 5 episodes, which were really short episodes. I was laughing so hard that the teachers actually had to come over to where I was at and let me know, you're being too loud, either lower the volume or get off the computer. But I was enjoying it so much, I even went to watch it when I got home, and I was just absolutely loving it. Of course, usually when a video game company sees a group of people trying to make something off of their project, whether it be like a spin-off or maybe they're trying to make a profit by doing their own thing, usually video game companies don't really take too kindly to that. However, Bungie and Microsoft, which were the people behind Halo at the time, they actually contacted the Rooster Teeth guys and they were like, hey, we love what you're doing. We want to help you keep doing it. So because of the partnership with the Rooster Teeth guys and the people behind Halo, they were able to grow Rooster Teeth into much, much more over the years. Soon it wasn't just red versus blue anymore. Soon it was a comic series for a time, which I really enjoyed. They're doing podcast. They're having another branch, Achievement Hunter, which is them playing video games the right way, or trying to anyway. Then there was a couple other things like Rwby, Genlock, and many, many more. Soon it was no longer just about one web series, but rather this huge presence in the entertainment industry. And along with it, they helped redefine what it meant to be part of a community. Now, it wasn't entirely Rooster Teeth. There were a couple other groups as well, like Screw Attack. But with what Rooster Teeth has done over the years, they redefined what a community meant in terms of it didn't have to be just your next door neighbor or whoever was in your neighborhood or even who was in the same school or classroom as you. No, it could be anyone from around the world with shared interest and a common love for a project that originally started out with just a few people just making something funny and just growing it into something much bigger than they ever could have imagined. So time passes, and the Rooster Teeth people, which is a lot more than just the names I just mentioned, many, many more. I'll list more of them as we go on in this podcast. Later on, the Rooster Teeth guys were trying to think of a way to give back to the audience. Like, let them know how much they appreciate the love and support over the years. So, on May 27th, 2011, was their first ever RTX event, which was essentially to be made a love letter to their fans. Now, mind you, this RTX was not a big convention like an anime or a gaming convention. No. This was much, much smaller. Originally, they were planning for probably around 200 people, but the moment the tickets went on sale, the announcement was made, they actually realized they actually made a lot more. Soon it was not just 200, but maybe around 500 people. Way more than what they were expecting. So over the years, RTX kept growing and growing and growing into much bigger things. And with me becoming a huge Rooster Teeth fan over time, and I'm still a Rooster Teeth fan, I've been wanting to go to RTX for so many years. Like, it was one of the things I wanted to do to put on the bucket list. So when it came to 2020, I finally decided, you know what? You only get one chance at life. You got to live it to the fullest. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to RTX. So what I did is I registered for the Ultra Pass, which is the highest level. It gives you a whole bunch of perks. That was around $1,500. Definitely worth it, but still a lot. Then I made the hotel the hotel reservations. That was another $1,300. And then the flight reservations were made. And then COVID-19 happened. All the events were shutting down. That was a real bummer. But thankfully, the people that I was making the reservations with were able to postpone until the next time the RTX event would be held in person. Like, the people running RTX, they understood the situation. They gave an opportunity to either get the refund for the badge or to postpone it until a later time when they can do it in person. And as for my hotel reservations, that's what I was worried about the most, because if if that hotel reservation had to be canceled, I would have spent another $1,300 as a cancellation fee. But thankfully, with Booking.com, who I was working with, they were nice enough to actually postpone the reservation dates as well, so I didn't have to pay that cancellation fee. So I had to wait for 2 very long, painful years. And not just because of the wait, but all the other stuff that was happening the past 2 years. It was crazy. So 2022 finally comes. We get the green light that RTX can finally be held in person, and I was excited. Everything was set. The badge, the hotel reservations, the flight, everything. So when I finally get to Texas, I go to the hotel, check in. They were very nice. They welcomed me. And they also said I was very lucky for some reason. And I was like, oh, why is that? And they mentioned that before the week that I came in, weeks before, their temperature was in the triple digits. That's actually very common in Texas, believe it or not. So they mentioned to me, like, this week is actually the first one that was in the double digits and not the triple digits. I was like, oh, lucky me. So when I got to my hotel room, I knew that my summer vacation had officially begun. So we get to Thursday, which is the day we pick up the badges. And since I got the Ultra badge, I actually got a lot of stuff. So I got this Rtx Swag Bag right here. Yeah, very nice. And it came with a few other things too, like this canister right here, which was really, really helpful because I really need to stay hydrated, and this really kept the water cold. There was also the lanyard that I got, a Death Battle lanyard, and I got this Ultra badge, actually signed. Let me focus that real quick. There we go. And it was signed by Ben Singer and Chad James, the people behind Death Battle. I'll explain more of that later. Now you gotta refocus myself for those that are watching this visually. And there were a couple other things here as well, including this little challenge that they gave to those who had the Ultra badge. Basically, it was based on a web series they've done recently called Survive Block Island. If you don't know what that is, just imagine Survivor, the TV series, in Minecraft form. That's basically the idea behind it. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend watching it. So this challenge they gave to the Ultra Badge people, it was a list of riddles to solve. And if you solved all of them and returned the paper on Saturday or Sunday, you would receive a special prize. But we'll get to more of that later. I'm just showing what came in the bag. Now, initially, I was concerned if I was be able to get it through the airport without having it checked in, because I didn't want my stuff being sacrificed to the airport gods. So that would be very unfortunate. But thankfully, I was able to count this as like a personal item, and I didn't have to worry about checking it in. Thank God. So I get all that, and then I learn about the Thursday Meetups, which is special for the Ultra Badge holders, where you actually get to meet some of the Rooster Teeth and Achievement Hunter cast before the RTX event even begins. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to pass that up. So I get to this bar / sausage restaurant. It's a very nice establishment. And like, there they were. There were some of the Achievement Hunter guys right there. There was Joe, one of the more recent members. There was Larry, who's best known as like the referee and wizard for Let's Roll. There was Matt Bragg, who is one of my favorite Twitch streamers. I love watching the streams and interacting with the people there. And Jack Patillo, who, God, that guy is like, I don't want to sound too weird, but Jack Patillo is like a giant teddy bear. He's got like the biggest heart that I've ever seen from anyone. And there were a couple others too, like Michael Jones, Lindsey Jones, BK, and God, I wish I could remember all the names, but I'm terrible with names. But like, I was standing on this with the same table as these great people that I've come to respect and admire over the years, and we're like right next to each other having conversations. Like, I got a chance to talk with Matt Bragg, and I was like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm Steven, but you might also know me as Tostemac. And he was like genuinely surprised and happy to see me. And so Matt, me, and one other person were just talking about video games. We were talking about Assassin's Creed. We were talking about Fallout. We were talking about upcoming games. And it felt so surreal that I was able to have an opportunity to have casual conversations with some of the people that I've looked up to for so many years. And I did not get a chance to talk to all of them, but that was on my end because I did not make enough time. That was just me, not them, just me. Because there was something else coming up with Thursday, and that was there was an event called First Night, where it was first come, first serve, so I had to make sure to get early enough to make sure I got a seat. And First Night was basically about getting to see the Rooster Teeth and Achievement Hunter cats, and basically getting sneak peeks of upcoming shows for Rooster Teeth and their partner, HBO Max. So, when I got to the first night, I was kind of worried since the line was pretty long. I was worried that I might not be able to get in. Not only was I able to get in, I got a front row seat to the whole thing. And that was a first for me. I've never been in the front row seat for any live performance ever. That was actually a first for me, and it was so amazing. It was in Paramount Theaters, a very nice establishment. And then something happened that I did not expect. There was a projector showing pictures of people tweeting about RTX. Then we start to see pictures of Michael Jones and Jeff Ramsey. The Jeff Ramsey. And according to the pictures, they were in the audience area with us. They weren't they weren't backstage. They were actually right there. Like, people were trying to figure out where's Jeff Ramsey, and he was on the upper balcony right there. He tweeted a picture asking for the fans over here to give a loud cheer, and they did. But then, immediately afterwards, a couple pictures later, there's a picture from Barbara Dunkelman, another Rooster Teeth, another person from Rooster Teeth, and a voice actress. And then she tweets a picture saying, "Cheer for me more than you cheered for Jeff." So there was a huge roar. So I look behind me, and I kid you not, she was like a few rows down from where I was sitting. That was crazy. Like, and then some of the Achievement Hunter guys were walking around, and it was like, holy cow, they're actually right here. They're not like in front of the stage, not all of them, but they were like right here. I was like my jaw practically dropped. I was so surprised. So then we get to the actual show, which was being presented by Carrie Shawcross, which is one of the head writers for an anime series called Rwby. Really love that show. And also there was BK, one of the newest members of Achievement Hunter. So from what I understand, this was the first time BK actually did a presentation like this, and she did really well. She was fun, energetic, and really did a great presentation. And of course, there were some other shenanigans, like Michael Jones just bolting towards the front of the stage, doing a flip, talking all sorts of funny stuff. So they were doing some sneak previews of some future Rooster Teeth stuff coming up. One of the things that stuck out to me the most was the sneak peek for a series called Rwby Ice Queendom, which is basically an alternate universe of the original Rwby story. There, we got to see not only Carrie Shawcross, but some of the lead voice actresses. There was Lindsay Jones, who plays Ruby Rose. There is Kara Eberly, I apologize if I mispronounced the name, who plays Waishni. Aaron Zek, who plays Blake Belladonna, and Barbara Dunkelman, who plays Yang Xiaolong. So all four of them were together on the stage talking about working on this project. And there was a moment where they got pretty emotional about it, because not only was this a project they've loved to work on for so many years, but this was the first time they got to get together for an event like this in over 3 years. 3 years may not seem like that long, but for us who was waiting for RTX, both the Rooster Teeth people and the fans, that felt like an eternity. And you can see the emotions on their faces, like it meant the world to them. Then we got to the sneak peek preview of the English dub of the first episode of Rwby Ice Queendom, and to the sidelines, I actually saw the voice actresses just watching the preview, and they were really tearing up and really happy to see this project that they've worked on come to fruition like this. And you could tell, and I could tell, it meant the world to them. It meant so much. The world, everything. It meant so much. And I can understand that. Well, maybe not on the same level that they can, but I understand the feeling of completing a project you worked on for so long and seeing an audience react to your work and absolutely loving your work. Like, finishing a project is one thing. Seeing other people enjoy your work, that's a whole nother feeling. So it was really amazing. Not just for the previews, but also like seeing the people I've looked up to in person, the genuine articles, and seeing them and their emotions on how they felt to be back together for an event like this, and also to show off their work to an audience and seeing everybody together. It was absolutely amazing. And mind you, this was before the RTX event officially began, because this event was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This is just Thursday. So there was a lot that was going on Friday through Sunday. As I saw through the RTX schedule, there was so many panels, so many events. And I remember one of the recommendations from the people holding RTX was there was so many events and also so many people. So instead of trying to go like to 4 or 5 or all of them in one day, instead just to pick 2 or 3 of the events. At first, when I was first setting up my schedule, I was like, why would I do that? But as the weekend was going by, I started to realize if I did stick with my original plan and went to like 4 panels a day, I realized that if I were to have done that, I would have done myself a great disservice, because there was a lot more going on than just the panels. There was the RTX store. There was a couple of sections where people were playing video games like Arcade Get-In and playing around the Survive Block Island map on Minecraft. And some of the Rooster Teeth and Achievement Hunter people just casually walking around. And it felt so surreal, like you're walking through a convention and then you see the celebrities you looked up to just casually walking by. And one of them, Larry, I was like, hey, how's it going? What's up? And it felt so crazy. So I'm thankful that I narrowed the events down to just 2 or 3 per day, because I felt like I got to experience so much more because of that. Now, before I got to experience any of the panels, I made it a top priority to go to the store first. Usually when it comes to conventions, I make sure to hit the store first, find out what it is I want to buy, so that way I don't regret not getting something. And I also make sure not to make multiple trips to the store if I can avoid it, just to make sure I don't miss out on the rest of the event. So based on, like, from the store, I actually got a few things. One of them was a LED sword from Halo Infinite. I gave that to Daniel. And I also got a couple other things as well. There was a Switch pack, Rwby themed, and there was a couple of coin purses, which I'm actually gonna give to some friends back in Maryland. And then also, I know there's one other thing in here. Yes. And also a Rwby themed watch. So I really wanted this one most of all. And then I got a couple other gifts for Christmas for the family, which I'm not going to show in this podcast, because I know my family watches this podcast, and if they do see it, they would get a sneak peek of what they get for Christmas, and I'm not going to let that happen. I'm smarter than the average bear. So, you're gonna have to wait until Christmas to see those, family members. Sorry. So, I get all my shopping done. Then I'm moving on to the first panel, which is the Rwby panel, RWBY. And there was the 4 voice actresses I mentioned before. There was also Carrie Shawcross and also Eddie Rivas. The I believe he's the head supervisor for writing the shows, not just Rwby, but also a couple others. He's one of the head writers. And they were talking about like the process of creating the shows and also offering sneak peeks to the next season, or next volume, I should say, of Rwby, and also a couple other projects as well. Like they got a game coming out later this year, and they also announced a crossover movie between Rwby and the Justice League. Now, mind you, this was based off a book series. So I have not read the book. I have no idea how they would combine Rwby and the Justice League. Like, my mind is still boggled of that very idea. But again, I haven't read the books. Maybe I should, but we'll see. And during that event, I actually saw one of my most favorite YouTubers in terms of making reaction videos. And it was Arnold from the YouTube channel Murder of Birds. And I was like, oh, I gotta get a picture of him. And he's a really nice guy. So it was a lot of fun watching that panel. And then the next one after that was Achievement Hunter Wrestling Last Call. Now, this was based off an Achievement Hunter series that was earlier this year called Achievement Hunter Wrestling. And it kind of plays around this WWE thing where the gameplay of the wrestling matches were pre-recorded, and the Achievement Hunter guys were just winging it. They were just just going with whatever was going on in the gameplay, making it all entertaining. That was just for a lot of fun. But the biggest thing for me on Friday was on Discord, Matt Bragg and a couple others actually planned a meetup somewhere in the convention after the panels were done. I think it was around 4 or 5. And basically, this was just a get-together for Matt Bragg and the people who watch his streams. So it felt awesome that I got to meet the people behind the usernames that I saw during the stream. Like, we're not just messaging each other, we're actually talking to each other in person. I was talking about some people who do medical stuff. There were people who love to play Mass Effect. I got to talk with Matt Bragg a little bit more, and I gotta say, some of the best gifts I got from the RTX event was actually not any of the stuff I bought. No, funny enough, the best gifts I got from the event didn't even require 1 cent. Here, let me show you. Just gonna get it from here. They were actually, a couple of them were small items from fans. One of them was this, a little badge that says soup. And I know you can't see that well, it's really small. And another one was a necklace that was made from 3D printing. Now, by themselves, they may not seem like too much, but these are actually very precious because they were made by fans to really show how much they appreciate the streams that Matt Bragg does. And I appreciate them too. And for them to go as far as to make gifts like these, it really shows how much the streaming group means to them. And this 3D printing necklace, there was one person who made these who was actually telling me about the printing process and how to make these. And I could tell that there was a lot of thought and passion that went into these gifts. And there was another one that Matt Bragg himself came up with as well to complement those gifts. And he came up with an idea where he would take pictures of each and every one of us and then autograph them. And I got mine right here. Yep. So let me focus on that. There we go. Yep, that is a picture of Matt Bragg and me, and he autographed it too. So this really meant a lot to me because originally I didn't think I was actually going to get any autographs because when I tried to sign up for the autograph sessions, they were already filled up. And I felt kind of bummed out that I didn't get an advance notice on how the autograph session thing was supposed to work, but that was more of a me thing instead of like how the system was working. I didn't really understand it, but from what I understand, from a couple other people, they were having issues too. Like the moment they tried to sign up for an autograph session with A and B, that they were immediately filled up, so they wouldn't get the chance to. So it's unfortunate, but I'm thankful to know that I wasn't the only one that got this problem. So, like, I feel like it's kind of ironic in a way that the gifts that didn't cost anything were the gifts that meant the most of all, that they were the most sentimental to me. But that's it. Sorry, I'm trying to not get emotional during this podcast. It meant so much to be a part of something so much bigger, to be part of a community, to be part of a group of friends with common interests and different backgrounds. And it was so fantastic. So that was the end of day one. Day two, Saturday, was when I turned in the Survive Block Island. Where did I put that paper? There it is. Where I turned in the Survive Block Island paper. At first, I got all but one of them right. One of them was wrong, so I had to go back to the drawing board and figure out where to go from there. So one of the registration people was actually talking to me about nearby food places and recommended Voodoo Donuts, which was, they have really good stuff there. Though really look at the menu. I would recommend looking through the menu before ordering anything. What happened was I got the recommendation, so I pull up Google Maps and I'm like, wait a minute, that's the answer. So I fix the correct answer. I fix the wrong answer with the correct answer. Then I turn it into them. And according to a couple other RTX attendees, I was actually the first person to turn all this in and get all the questions right. Or all the riddles right, I mean. Which means this is my first time being first at anything besides Mario Kart. So as a reward, I actually got a series of cards from the people who played Survive Block Island. And mind you, this wasn't just like random people. This was Achievement Hunter and Rooster Teeth people. Now, I'm not really sure how well you'd be able to see all this, but I'm going to try to show this as best I can. So basically, there were the people from season 1 of Survive Block Island. It shows their avatar and also the people behind said avatar, as well as a couple others from the upcoming second season, because people really love the show. They love the idea of putting Survivor in Minecraft and then just having a lot of fun with it. And then there was a couple others that were like previews for the upcoming season 2. So that was a lot of fun, and it felt so good to be first at something, finally. So that was the first thing I did on Saturday. And then there was the Death Battle panel, where Death Battle is a series where they basically put two fictional characters and make them fight to the death to see who's strongest. That's the simple explanation. And there was like Ben Singer, Chad James, and the actor for, what was his name? Ringmaster, that's it. So they were all there, as well as a couple of the writers and producers, and they were talking about the process of creating the Death Battle episodes. And there's a lot into it. It's not just about looking up the facts and doing the 2D or 3D animation depending on what the episode is, but there was also other stuff with marketing and also sponsorship as well. Like, there were many sponsors that went to the Death Battle people and were like, hey, can we feature this character in one of your death battle episodes? And they were like, sure, but understand that does not guarantee that they're going to win. We are putting two characters in combat, a fight to the death, to see who will prevail on top. So we cannot play favorites. And some of the sponsors kind of backed out, but a lot of the other sponsors were okay with the idea. So that's how they kind of approached sponsored opportunities for Death Battle. And it was very interesting to learn about all that. And that was when I got the autograph. And that was, that was when I got the autograph from Chad James and Ben Singer. So it was 3 autographs I got. So that was definitely, it was a lot of fun, but also very enlightening on there was more to the show than just pinning 2 characters together. So after that panel, there was another one that was called, let's see. Yes, the Achievement Hunter panel. There was Jeremy Dooley, BK, Kai, Matt Bragg. Actually, I think he was sitting in the audience. No. Larry was sitting in the front row. And then once again, I saw Jeff Ramsey. The Jeff Ramsey. Actually, I just remembered, I don't think Matt Bragg was actually at the panel. I think he was doing something else. But Jeff Ramsey was like right there, and they were talking about all kinds of stuff. And there was also Trevor Collins at the panel too, and he's one of the Achievement Hunter people. I think he's the one in charge of Achievement Hunter right now, and he is also the host of Survive Block Island. And they were talking about the process of like making different shows and different content. And there was a session where they actually did some Q&A. The one that stuck out to me the most was there was from what I understand, a military veteran that didn't necessarily have a question, but wanted to thank the Achievement Hunter guys and Jeff Ramsey for the work that they did, saying that the work really helped the veteran get through some rough times. And that the veteran was very grateful for the work they did. And the Achievement Hunter people and Jeff Ramsey thanked the veteran for their service, but they also mentioned that just as they helped the audience get through rough times, the audience also helped them get through rough times as well. Like, that really stuck with me because it felt like we were all helping each other to get through this pandemic catastrophe that people haven't seen in over 100 years. Knowing that we were all together in this, it was pretty emotional at that moment for everyone involved. So that really stuck out to me the most. The Achievement Hunter panel was a lot of fun. It was just that Q&A session that really left the most impact. Now, finally, there was a variety show on later on in the night where Barbara Dunkelman, Josh Reisinger, Chris Demarays, and a few others were basically doing improv. They were doing a lot of funny presentations and ideas to make us laugh. And that was really enjoyable, but they also took the time to celebrate Barbara Dunkelman's birthday as well. They even had like a cake and everything. And what they did was they actually gave the cake away to the audience. And from what I understand, that cake did not last long at all. Like, there was, in the other hotel, there was a picture of an empty plate that the cake was supposed to be on. It was all gone. But it was a lot of fun. And I took pictures of the variety show. If you want to head over to the Tostemac Facebook page, that's where the pictures are going to be in order to get a glimpse of what I saw there. So we finally get to Sunday, the last day of RTX, and we have 2 panels left. The Rwby the Grimm campaign panel, and also the Writer's Block Party panel. And I'll get to that one in a bit. But Rwby the Grimm campaign, for those who don't know, is basically, it's Rwby, but it's a Dungeons and Dragon game scenario that takes place before the Rwby story even begins. And it's hosted by Eddie Rivas, the head writer and also the headmaster or dungeon master, if you will. And he's joined by 4 players. One of them is Chad James. He plays the lovable rogue, Asher Mora. Then there's Laura Yates, who plays Arastra Sky. And originally there was supposed to be Carrie Shawcross, who plays Pike Wright, but Carrie Shawcross had to go to another event, I believe it was Anime Expo, to promote Rwby Ice Queendom. But so we all understood, like, he had to do what he can to promote the show. And then there's Chris Kokinos, and he plays Phoenix Nemian. And I'm so glad I remembered all the names. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go to the Rooster Teeth site and look up Rwby the Grim Campaign. You're going to love it. So what they did was, in this panel, was they were playing this short, non-canon scenario where they were trying to figure out who was stealing stuff. And they're joined by, instead of Carrie Shawcross, they're joined by Elizabeth Maxwell. Not only is she a great voice actress, but she is also the voice actress of Winter Schnee in the Rwby series. So there's a scenario where Winter Schnee is accompanying Asher Mora, Arastra Sky, and Phoenix Nemian. And when some of the people in the game were asking Asher Mora, wait, aren't there supposed to be 4 of you? He responds, just consider it a blessing. But honestly, I felt really bad for Chris Kokinos during that panel because he was sitting right next to Elizabeth Maxwell, and there were some conversations going on that I don't think would be appropriate to mention in this podcast. But let's just say, while Chad James, Eddie Rivas, and Laura Yates and Elizabeth Maxwell were having a good laugh, I see Chris Kokinos just sitting there, and he was saying that he was blushing a lot. Not only the character in the game, but also him in real life. He was blushing, and I think it was to the point where he was about to cry. I felt so bad for him. I was like, oh no, he's being put through the ringer. So they get through this rather ridiculous scenario. They were naming characters after waffles and muffins, and they were doing these dice rolls to see what would happen. It was all convoluted. But the point of that panel was to have fun and try to build hype for hopefully a 3rd season of Rwby the Grim Campaign. So that was just a lot of fun. Then we get to the Writer's Block Party, which is not only the most meaningful to me, it really meant a lot to me, but it was also the one that was the most sobering, that it brought me down back to earth. Like, throughout the event, I felt like I was on cloud 9. I was meeting face to face with so many people I've come to know and admire, actually having conversations with them. It felt so fantastic. But then with the writers panel, I felt like I was brought back down to earth and realizing that I still have a lot to learn as a content creator myself, because there was Eddie Rivas, there was Chris Desmarais, there was Elise Williams, and Ben Singer was there too. And I think there was one other writer there too. And they were talking about their past experience. Like, one of them had a degree in political science, another one had a degree in computer science, and funny enough, they did not end up following that. They ended up not following that path, which made me feel a little bit good because I have a bachelor's degree in photography, and I don't have a full-time job in photography. But they mentioned that they were able to use the experience and the education that they learned from the degrees in order to pursue what it is they ended up working on, which kind of resonates with me in a way, because even though I don't have a full-time photography or videography job right now, I feel like I've learned a lot because I took those classes, because I took the experiences, and because I met the people, because of the educational path I was on at the time. So it felt great. I felt like I could relate to them, but they were also talking about how they do podcast. And let me tell you, I had the podcast game all wrong. Because originally, I'm not going to lie to you, originally I had this idea that the podcast was about pick a topic and then talk about it. That's it. But as I was listening to the people at the panel, there was a lot more that was going on. Now, with Eddie Rivas, one of the recommendations he made, not necessarily about podcasts, but writing in general, is that one of the things he does is he takes a notebook and pen or pencil, whichever's available, and writes things down. He explained that when he was typing stuff on a computer, it felt more final, more permanent. But when he was writing on paper, then he could kind of play around with it a little bit more, kind of experiment with a few things, think of different scenarios. So I kind of took a bit of that advice. Then Elise Williams was talking about how much thought is put into the podcast. Like, there are times where she mentioned she would see things on Twitter or Reddit and then look more into it, like looking at it from different angles, trying to do research on it, and then coming up with a conversation for it. But also how to present that information to the audience. That way it's not just 5 minutes of stuttering or awkward silence. Then finally, I just said, great. Yeah, great. You really learned a lot, Stephen. You really learned a lot. Then Chris also gave the recommendation of do not use your first take when it comes to podcast recordings. Like, you want to do more than one, because sometimes you may see that you may have missed something, or maybe there's something you shouldn't say in the podcast, or maybe there's an idea that you had that might not work at all, or maybe it'll work later, but it's not going to work now. So what he recommended was don't settle with the first take, never settle with the first take, but do more than one, do multiple, maybe second or third or fourth. And what I did for this particular podcast, just to show how much I've learned, is like with Eddie Rivas, I wrote down what to say, what not to say in the podcast. So these are the notes I took, and you're probably not going to see it too well. There's some notes here that I took before I did the first recording. And then on the next page, I wrote down some notes for the retake, like what to say, what not to say, in order to make this better. That to show my understanding that the podcast is not just a conversation, but it's also about the presentation itself. It's also about formatting the podcast in a way that tells a story. It's not just conversations or awkward silence. It's also about conveying what you want to say in the podcast in the best way possible to get the best first foot in the door. So after that panel was over, I thanked a couple of them for not only the advice, but also the work that they've done over the years. So after that, the event was finally over. And I gotta say, this was the best summer vacation I have ever had. Not only being able to get to meet so much amazing people, not only being able to talk to so many people within the community that likes to watch the same stuff that I do, but it's also about learning how I can relate to some of these people and how I myself can grow as a content creator and as a person, knowing that I still have a long way to go. The journey never ends. So it was absolutely amazing. I'm probably not going to do it next year, though, because that made a considerable dent on the wallet. I'm not sure if I have another $3,000 to spare for an event like this for a while, unfortunately. But I can gladly say that I did, and that I really had a great time. So, what do you think? Have you ever gone to an event that really left an impact on you? Something you wanted to do for so many years and you finally get to do it? And if you did, how was it like? Let me know in the comments section below. And on that note, it's time to end the podcast. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoy what you see, consider subscribing to Tostemac and clicking the bell icon to stay up to date in our latest videos. Hopefully, later on down the road, I'm going to improve these podcasts to deliver more amazing podcasts for you and for special guests I'd like to add on at later points. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and until the next video, see you later.